always say, what makes a guy learn how to win? It's 14, 15 bridesmaids. When your eyes have been black so many times. I remember racing McCullough at Montreal. And there's another one of the greats of the sport. I remember going to Montreal, and the final round I was laughing in the front seat of the car, and Coyle asked me, what are you laughing about? I said, I'm laughing about I've been beat 14 times, probably going to get beat again. He says, well, that ain't no attitude. I said, well, look, I'm just truthful. I want to win more than anything in the world. But you know what? I've been sick so many times, and I'm so used to losing. I'm going to go over here and have me some fun today because I'm in a final, because I always miss the final. I'm so busy worrying, and I won. My feet made magic, backpedaling shit that no one could believe. And why? Because just like a fighter, you train yourself. Get so many black eyes, pretty soon don't matter no more. But what happens is that you get not self-conscious, not self-confidence, you get calmness. And when you get calm, you're at your best. When you're calm, you're the best. Simple deal.
Last year, here in January 1987, John Force won this race over the supposed unconquerable air tunnel-tuned Buick of Kenny Bernstein. This year, Austin Coyle has produced an incredible combination that saw a late afternoon blast yesterday here of 5.34 seconds, the quickest funny car run ever in the history of this sport. Don, what has Austin Coyle done to that car?
He has developed a 4-speed clutch, an unbelievable deal. You know, we had 1 speed, and then last year we had 2 speed, and at the end of the year we had 3 speed. While Austin has got a 4-speed clutch. That means they have taken total control of the clutch engagement on this car.
The result is the #1 qualifying position in this field at 5:34.6 as Austin Coyle prepares John Force for his first round pass here. And they'll be running against the brand new Hawaiian Punch Dodge Daytona of Roland Leong and Johnny West. #5 qualifiers here, half a second back at 5:82.5 and 247 miles per hour. John Force, burnout, money up, into the lead spot now. Brand new Hawaiian Punch Dodge Daytona of Roland.
I'd like to add also that Austin Coyle is a very similar type personality to Dale Armstrong. He never stops thinking. There's a lot of other little tricky things on that car, John, such in the fuel system that nobody knows about, that Austin Coyle is constantly working on and developing. And the difference between the Austin Coyle 4-speed and the Bernstein Armstrong deal is Armstrong and Bernstein, they sell their stuff, and Coyle doesn't sell anything.
Keeps the secret to himself. And that's the burnout. That car doesn't sound any differently. Beginning of the 1987 season, John Coyle had 5 supercharger combinations in a row due to crossfire between the 2 magnetos on the vehicle. So they started with 1 magneto. After their burnout, they pull it back to the starting line, put the body up. Austin Coyle clicks on the 2nd magneto, and these guys are ready to drag race. They roll in the move. Remember, once the 2nd light is on 7.5 inches away from a red light, and you're controlling a 4,000 horsepower car.
Look at that force.
He's going 268.65 miles per hour, and the Roland Leong team cards a 593, 243.24 miles per hour, and John Force, Don Garlits, has just established the reality of that 5:34 lap time.
Isn't there pressure? I'm calmed down because I've learned how to win.
What about
It's like Cruz said to me when he red lighted, how painful it was. He says, God, when does this feeling go away? I said, well, after you do it about 10 or 11 more times, and you'd be sick and you'd throw up about it, and one day you just wake up one day. It's like a bully on your block in school. I had a kid named Hot Dog in school, was his name, Ronnie Frank. He used to always beat me up. I can remember every day of my life, couldn't even fight because I was so sick. And he wanted to fight me at least once a week. And I'd have to go out and he'd beat me up. And one day it just dawned on me. You know, I've been beat up so many times, he can't hurt me anymore. So today, instead of going out there and being afraid to hit him because he might hurt me, I just went out there and knocked his head off. And I did. That was a fact. And I thought, God, I could have always whooped him, but I was too afraid of it. I was too busy trying to talk him out of fighting in the middle of him slugging me.
That he never bothered you.
No, actually, he grew up about 10 years later and got in high school and beat me up some more.
There might be a little looseness right out there. It could well be, you know, two cars, two different teams. That's a good sign. Maybe something is out there in that right lane that's not up to par.
Okay, Don, so let's talk about that for just a minute. What we've arrived at now is the reality of what lane choice is worth. If, in fact, Force, who's going to come up, just started his engine right now, is able to hold that 540, he goes into the final round with lane choice. Here we go. The cars are started. Fastest man in a funny car in drag racing on this weekend at 5.346 seconds. And here comes Kenny Bernstein in the Budweiser team.
What we have here is a battle of the crew chiefs. We have Armstrong over here in the right lane, Austin Coyle in the left lane. I would say probably two of the smartest men in drag racing because of the innovations that they keep coming up with. They're literally running these cars from the back in the pit. The timers are shifting the transmission, leading out the motor, shifting the clutches. It's an incredible technological thing that's happening here in drag racing.
They back into stage for the dry hop. Force at 540, Bernstein at 553. A 1300ths of a second elapsed time differential. All right, let's watch the dry hop. Now, the interesting part about this race is that last year, this was the final round of Funny Car Eliminator, and Force won the day. Now, Bernstein may have difficulty putting his reverser in. Obviously, the car is running, and the crew is out there trying to find out what's going on, Don.
And the body goes up. That's a real bad sign. Now, Austin Coyle brings the body up to put the other mag on top, but in this case, they may have a problem down there. So, we'll soon find out. Obviously, no reverse. They're pushing it backwards. I think the car is still running. They're backing it up. The reverser has obviously went out of Bernstein's car, and the crew has physically pushed it 2,000-pound monster back to the starting line. That just goes to show you how hard they want to race.
All right, when automation fails, you muscle it back to the starting line. Fire slugging Bernstein up. Force goes 541. 541 for John Force at 267.85. And perhaps the world's most thoroughly prepared race car is Auto Horsepower.
Well, it's always good when you can win, and this day's happening. I don't know why it's happening, but a lot of work's gone in here for my team, and Austin Coyle especially in the last 3 months, and they've given me a car. It's like driving an automatic. Maybe I got me a race car like Bernstein has, and now we can race with him.
There's a little disagreement on the start line. I guess Bernstein's reverser broke and they pushed it back. You waited for him.
No, they wanted us to single because Bernstein was still sitting out there when I was staging, and no, we just waited a long time here to get a shot at him, and I was going to give him a little more time. So you figure you can outrun him. We're all trying to check our stuff out, and I wanted to race.
A lot of time elapsed, though, and those tires were allowed to cool down way too much. Consequently, there they were with smoke off the tires just off the starting line.
Hot engine, cool tires ends the second round of Funny Car Eliminator. So it sets up the final. Ed McCullough against John Force in the final round of Funny Car Eliminator here at the Super Bowl.
Now I drive with the calmness. And I've seen it change. I've seen it change when I get a couple rounds on somebody that's put a couple lights on me and beat me up, and that guy comes up in the numbers again, and I got him, and whew, that old heart pump comes back, and that fear, and you're telling yourself, wait a minute, don't do what you know you can't do, and that's lose mental control. You got to come in here and dance and do your game. Drive your car. You know, I told Lori Johns once, she says, I just have this deal, and I don't understand how to calm. I said, you got to get in that car and start singing. Sing about things that you love, things you like. Talk about your dog or your mom and dad or your boyfriend, and get into things. I picturize my children, and I get happy. and I'm doing the burnout, backing up. I ain't looking at the oil pressure, I ain't looking at nothing. I'm thinking about my kids and what they're doing right now, and they're sitting home in front of the TV watching their crazy old man live, and I'm saying to myself, and pretty soon, all of a sudden I notice there's no sweat, there's calmness, and you walk up and the opponent. Remember the old stories in the old days? I used to pretend it was Freddy Krueger in the next lane because I didn't want to imagine that it was really Don Perdome. Because Don Perdome beat me up so many times, he's going to beat me up again. Well, then don't make it Don Perdome. Put Shirley Temple over there. Mentally put Shirley Temple in that car, and what are you afraid of? A car that's empty? Don't put label. You know why I started the red car deal and I started the name Red Car? It's because I wanted to get rid of the corporate name Budweiser. I did not want to hear corporate. You cannot beat Budweiser. They're too powerful. They're too big. They win everything. So I put the car to be in red.
You told us.
And red, it's just a red car. It could be Gary Dincham, could be anybody. And you can beat a red car, you just can't beat Budweiser. But now you can. I can.
This is it. The Nitro Warriors in final round competition. It's Funny Car Eliminator Final at the Super Bowl of Drag Racing. In the left lane, with a 5:34, quickest run in funny car history to his credit, the Austin Castrol GTX Oldsmobile Cutlass Supreme, wrenched by Austin Coyle and driven by John Force. In the right lane, some 32 hundredths of a second slower, it is the thundering machine of Ed McCullough. As McCullough's car traveled past us here on the podium. The runner-up speed for Ed McCullough, 204.08. Don, your final thoughts on Funny Car Eliminator.
Well, here's the situation where you can see the crew did everything they possibly could do and only duplicated the run before the 573. I'm sure both teams would have loved to have stepped up, but in this case, they did not. Force is a winner, and you can bet the crew is plenty happy about it.
Well, it was a good outing, and first of all, from my end, I want to thank my sponsors, Castrol and Jolly Rancher, Polaroid, and the Wax Shop, and a lot of guys that didn't get their paint on there because this car was very close to making it. And I want to give credit to my team for getting there through a sandstorm. And then Coyle here, he's going to tell you why it ran so good.
Well, I'll tell you, the biggest thing that came about that really matters the most is John Force and his sponsors. As over this past winter, he's come up with enough money to where he said we can play hardball, and I finally had the chance to see if some of my wild ideas would work, and they appear to be working pretty good. Like when we get to Pomona, he asked me earlier what he should worry about, and we were going to make a run. I said, you ought to worry about a new hairstyle, because when we get to Pomona, this thing's going to run fast enough to curl your hair.
Gary Densham is a real racer. If anyone ever gave him some money, he'd be dangerous. He has the experience how to operate on zero budget and still can compete out here in the top 10 deal. Bazemore, this kid, Warsham, the rookie. Somebody's going to give him some money, and then we're going to have hell to pay for it. You know what I'm saying? Because that is the trend. You know why? They have no money like me 10 years ago. They're hungry to get a hamburger, and the hamburger's at the other end. So they'll drive through sleet and snow, oil downs and fires, and not even think about it to get there, like I did. And then after a while, they get that know-how of how to do it, how to run on one piston, and then you give them some money, they get dangerous. And then they get too much money, and they get lazy, and then they're not world champs. And that's the cycle of life. And that's what I'm not going to allow to happen to this team. I run it on a budget. I sell T-shirts myself. I work out of the back of my trailer at every race. I race every weekend. If I'm not, I'm somewhere selling, or maybe I get a weekend off of the kids. But I work. Why am I the only world champ that is still match racing? Why? I'm the only one. Maybe Gartlett's will come back and run a race every now and then. Well, maybe he's put in his dues and his years. But Larson quit. Prudhomme quit. Kenny Bernstein quit. They didn't quit just because of the money. It's like, why? We paid our dues, we made our money, let's go home. Well, maybe in my mind, maybe they only won 3 or 4 championships, and then they got too much money, or they got too much, and they didn't need it. So I thought, that road will lose you a championship, so I ain't going that road. And maybe Kenny's fighting his way back right now with a different, maybe he's a businessman that goes out and looks.
Ready? Fire 'em up!
Now fired and running. It's one of the most heavily financed cars in all of motorsports. John Brute Force in the Castrol GTX Oldsmobile. Now these guys are unique. They start their cars different than anybody else. Crew Chief Boston Coyle sporting raw gasoline into the injector. They warm it up on gas until they know it's ready for the nitro, and they turn on the fuel. The starter looks over the track as Jimmy White brings Roland Leong's Hawaiian Punch Dodge Daytona into the burnout box. My God, to half track with the tires boiling. Boy, he is an aggressive driver here today. Now there's Roland Leong, 30 years in the sport. He gave Don Prudhomme his start about 25 years ago when he let him drive his top fuel dragster. Now both cars backing up towards the starting line. Now watch what the crew for John Force is going to do. Once they get him back behind the line, they raise the body up on the car, and Crew Chief Boston Coyle is going to disconnect the ground wire on one of the ignition systems. They use one ignition system to do the burnout and 2 ignition systems to make the run. Great start, side by side. Force gets a little out of shape, and White has a little fire. Something going wrong. Force drives on around a 544 for the win.
Let's shift gears a minute. For the benefit of those guys, your fans, your many fans, and you do have tons of fans, they want to know more about your personal likes, like your music, for example. What kind of music you like?
I like all kinds. I like country. I like Garth Brooks. I like Waylon Jennings, Merle Haggard. I like all that, but yet go to the other side. You know, I like some of the heavy stuff. Elvis was naturally my favorite from the beginning. And I have his stuff I carry with me all the time. It's good stuff. I like country because it tells a story. And maybe the heavy metal of the day, which is great, and our following listens to it, but it's so fast for me, I don't know what they're saying because the trends have changed and the lingo's different. So it's hard for me to follow it. But I have to listen to the music, not to the actual saying. Coyle, that's all he listens to. Full blast, bombshell, no fear, rock and roll. Every time my car starts, the last thing that's said by my guys looking at me is rock and roll. That's rock and roll. That's what we do. And you know what? Do you know what we have now that I put into my car that I have? Is we have racing radios now. My crew does. You'll see them tonight. I don't want to be alone anymore.
Two-way communication.
I want to be able to talk. I want to talk to Austin. I want to talk to Bernie. We're going to have headphones on my wife and maybe even to my kids, where my baby can call in and say, "Daddy, how is it out there?"
Does it work good with the car's running?
Yeah, it's great. And I'll tell you what, I tried it before, and we had problems with it, with NHRA. So, but I just got these new deals. I saw it with Al Unser at the Indy race when his wife stood and listened and talked to her, could say, "Are you okay?" That's very important. And I'd like to think, if I was at the end of a racetrack and my life was going away, and all this was made after Memphis, and I was going to tip over, I'd like at least to be able to say goodbye to my wife and that I loved her, and not have her get down there and find dead me. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Now that is the truth, and that ain't being gruesome, it's just the way life really is. I like to just say I love you and I'm out of here.
Crew Chief Austin Coyle with a traditional toothpick in his mouth checks the rear tires of John Force's Castrol GTX Oldsmobile. Force, all suited up, ready to go, takes a one last walk around his car. He checks everything, the parachutes, the wheelie bars. Make sure he's ready to take his trip down the quarter mile. A funny car, 2,350 pounds, 4,000 horsepower, and covered with a fiberglass body. Crew member John Harmson gives Force the okay sign. The body comes down. Fire him up! This is the last pair in this round of Nitro Funny Car. John Force taking on Art Hendy, and the winner of this goes up against Ed the Ace McCulloch in the final round. So the bodies come down on 8,000 horses. These wild fiberglass-bodied funny cars are the ultimate in motorsport. Unique, only drag racing. There's nothing like it. Rolling into the burnout box and getting ready for the crowd-pleasing burnout. The burnout's completed. Two of the longest burnouts I've ever seen by Nitro Funny Cars. Now again, another David and Goliath situation. Okay, again, the body comes up, coil goes underneath the car, disconnects that second magneto, and gets it ready for the run. Force gives his nod of approval, the body comes down, and he gets ready for what's a tradition with his team, shaking hands with crew member John Harmson. He does it every time he goes down the drag strip.
Says to me, Force, you never do anything. You bought yourself a Harley. It's 2 years ago. It's still got 900 miles on it. I don't ever drive it. I said I drove it. It was something that I wanted. Then after a period of 5 years when I got where I could afford it, then I didn't have time for it. If I have any time, I spend it with the kids. Next is a race car. Because see, you got to love your children because you love them in a different way. You love your race car. It's your real best friend, and that's a fact. See, when I started racing, there was no kids. There was no family. My oldest girl was all I had. She lived with her mother. We were divorced. And I was racing, and I lived on the road. And so how can you live and crash and be on fire and starve to death and share a hamburger with this race car and not be your best friend? Now, Coyle says, best friend, it's a piece of metal. Yeah. No, the race car to you is a shell, but your motor, your computer, is his lifestyle. Take that motor away from Coyle. You know you got nothing. You got a guy that'll go build carburetors. Take my race car, my big trailer, away from me. What do you got? You got a guy who goes tell stories down in the corner. That's all you got.
Are you saying you become one with the car?
Yeah, I feel my car. I know my car. We talk. At Memphis, to the car as she come around sideways, we're going to die. And then I said, well, you did, because she did. And I'm taking her home. She ain't dead. We broke her legs and ripped her in half. She's going home to be suited for a new body. Now, this is emotional. You get me drunk, I'll tell you how it really is. But she's going home, and she's getting a new facelift. She's getting a new body with paint. She's going to get a whole new front end. And she's going to slide out. She's done her job. She's retired. None of my cars die. All my cars come back. See, that was my first major crash. I might burn a body off, but my bodies that are burned are in Detroit, in the Race Rock Cafe, hanging in the ceiling, still telling stories. None of my friends go away. They
Do you
all
think
stay
about
forever.
that when you're racing the next race?
Oh, yeah. The maddest Coyle ever seen me was my brand new car. He kicked a rod out of it, and it bent the frame rail. Brand new Plitter car, and I jumped out and I was hot. He said, I never seen you had a fit. We'll fix it. It cost $10. I said, it was brand new and you broke her side. And you'll fix her, but she'll never be the same. Because nothing's ever the same when you break it. She's hurt now. You've hurt my friend. Don't ever do that again. And then he ruined my friend at Memphis. And I'm really mad about that. What did I learn from Memphis? I learned I could outrun Austin. I chased him down the return run.
Fire up the next pair in the right-hand lane. The crowd favorite, John Brute Force, out of Yorba Linda, California. He'll be taking on Mr. Jimmy Murphy in the car he calls Holy Smoke. Okay, both cars fired and running. The body's coming down, and they're moving towards the burnout box in preparation for the burnout. Now at night you can tell who leaves the starting line first by how the header flames come out. Notice how the tree turns green and just instantaneously both drivers are on the loud pedal. Side by side off the starting line, spewing sheets of flame into the air. More smoke the tires at the pedal. Saw the flames go down, he got back in it, but just couldn't recover fast enough. Murphy gets a big win here.
What is your relationship with Coyle?
Probably in life, my best friend. Probably next to my wife, I would say my best friend. You have your commitments on both sides. My family's very important. Without my children, I mean, there's no trade out. If the Lord came down and said, race car children, well, let's don't debate it. Let's go. You know what I'm saying? But as who I live with, them, let's say 20% of the time, this truck and trailer, this is my home. It's really funny. I go home, it's exciting to go home. But when I leave, The racetracks and the restaurants are my home, and I think you'll find that with any racer. Just they don't want to say it because that sounds stupid. But I always say stuff that sounds stupid because that's a fact. This is my life. I walk outside and I look at home. Englishtown's my home. It's where I live.
Now we have a real unique situation. Two cars that came up to run before, both were shut off. They both went back into the pits, made repairs, and they're back out here ready to make a pass and thrill the fans. It'll be John Brute Ford, who had problems lowering his body before, taking on Ron Sutherland, Desert Rat with Chris Lane driving. The real tight roll cage, wearing a fire suit and helmet. You can hardly breathe because of the fume. You can hardly see down the drag strip, and yet you're about ready to take a trip down a quarter mile in 5.5 seconds at over 260 miles an hour. Boy, now Chris Lane has another problem. He can't get his car out of reverse. It's stuck in backward gear. Austin Coyle tells John Force, we're ready. Tells the starter, what about the other guy? Starter makes the decision. Bring him on in, John. You're going to go down on a single. So John Brute Force is going to go down this dark drag strip all by himself. Force off the starting line like a rocket, straight as an arrow. He's got a good one going. He cranks out a 5.52, almost 270 miles an hour. That 5.52 of course is low ET of the meet. That finishes the second round, and we're all set and ready to go for our finals.
In the beginning, emotion is a lot different than it is now. The emotion of the first race, the first win at Montreal, it was a relief that my life, growing up, dreams of wanting to be somebody, my dad investing money, my family investing money, my brother Louis working, my whole family working to see me reach the top and thinking maybe that I'd never make it. There's a lot of people out here that haven't made it and a lot of them that aren't going to make it.
Did you think you would make it?
In the beginning, I went after Don for Dome and long burnouts and the excitement of the crowds and loved signing autographs. Still do love signing autographs because fans are part of it. I think that's still what makes it exciting to me. Some days, like any person in any profession, entertainment, you have a day that's down and it's not fun to be with the fans. But you can turn it around in your mind and make it fun being out there, you know. And because sometimes you're just tired like anybody. You want your space. You want to be alone. And the fans don't allow that for you to be alone.
When you were alone after that first win that night, let's get back to the bedroom.
That's what I'm saying. It's all different. That first win was so much different than the wins now. Because now it's a psychological role to stay on top. No one has a clue unless you read the books on George Halas and Bear Bryant and all the great coaches of how they ran teams, and that's how I structure this team. Even though Austin Coyle and Bernie Federle run this team and they put this crew together on the road and they tune these motors, I have my own motivation. We have it before every race. We have it after every race that we lose. And then the next day following the races that we win, we have it again. There's three structures of motivation for people. Fear to motivate that they're not going to get on the bottom. You know what I mean? And so you push them to win and they win so they don't have to go back to where they come from. And then when they do win, you have to motivate them again to keep winning. It's just a big cycle. Any coach has a deal. And then after a period of time, you have to let them go because people can only be pushed so far to chase your dream because they create new dreams.
What is your motivation? What does fear motivate you?
Yeah, my motivation's changed a lot. I think when you get on top, now very crucial, and you notice the investment in my race car. We spent millions and millions of dollars creating quality cars that'll run fast, but not anything into the innovation of safety to keep the driver alive. And it wasn't until the crash at Memphis, and you talk about going home after a race and thinking about this whole program is wrong, this whole program sucks, and like maybe a guy ought to quit and go back to driving a truck, when you really think the reality of dying, you know what I'm saying? And that was probably the first shot I really thought about dying.
Did you reflect a lot after that accident?
Yeah, I'm still reflecting right now, and it's been a month. My car's had a number of changes to it, safety equipment. I'm finally starting to get back in the seat again. I had to jump right back in the seat. You look back over the years at any of the drivers, and you look at the trends of a number of champions right here in our sport that crashed. And I won't name the names, but there was crashes on major world championships, and that champion never returned. What happened? He slowed down.
Does that scare you?
Scared me. It's the first thing I told Coyle. Got to get her done. Got to get it fixed. Created a whole new scheme, not just going home and sleeping and saying, gee, we'll come back and do this again.
Do you think that's a turning point, that crash, in your racing career?
Yeah, in mine. If I was 10 years older, it might have been a turning point of maybe thinking I need to retire, that I had enough of this.
So what's going to drive you now?
Because I pushed it to make it safer. Because I didn't look at it and say, we're at the end of our rope here and there's nothing left except crashing and dying. I said, no one's invested the money or the time or the thought process to create a car that was safe. And that's what I've gone after. And I've not even touched on it at all.
What have you done to your car to make it safer?
Safety things. Number one, get rid of the fire, get rid of the chance of being burned. So I put an ejection system on the car to shoot the body off. More fire bottles plumbed directly on the driver. Next, aluminum wheels. Wheels underneath the car, so if it burnt the tires off, the car would stay afloat where you could steer it. That's why I crashed at Memphis. Couldn't steer it, no tires.
You feel more confident now with these safety features that you
Yeah.
have?
When the car hit the wall at Memphis, the body was gone. There was no fire.
How about mentally? How do you feel? You can't buy safety devices.
Oh, I feel better. I just come out of a major win at Montreal that put us right back where we belonged in the points lead. And I feel very happy about it. It's not done. They're building a capsule. If the boat guys build a capsule to protect their driver, why didn't we? If we're so far ahead of them, why didn't we? What did they do? No, they lost a number of people. See, in drag racing, we haven't lost a number of people. We've had some people hurt, like Daryl Gwynn, and we've had a few that have gone a wayside. But have you ever walked down the roads and seen the ones that have been burned, that have faded out, and nobody looks back at? I have a very good friend, Lee Anders from Sweden, was killed in a car that I sold him, and he burned up in that car, left 2 of his kids behind. That was very emotional to me.
How does that make you feel?
It made me sick. This was a great person. I didn't know him well. I only knew of him, more of him, of his family than I did of him personally, because that's all he ever talked about was
But
his
do you
2
feel
kids.
responsibility?
No. No, he did what he had to do. It's the problems I have with Austin Coyle. He wants to be emotional. He's been sick for weeks. Federally told me that today. Cole's been sick for weeks over the crash. That he's going to go to the end of the racetrack and see me possibly not there. Not because I make payroll, because I'm his friend. And he feels that. But like I explained to Cole, that's not your job to send me. You gave me a good car, and there's mistakes. Let's make it better. That's all part of the game. But along the road, we haven't added safety. The only time a major safety factor, even with NHRA and SEMA and all the things that they do their job. But it's hard to really tell what's really needed until somebody's hurt. Fire, smoke out of the pipes, cars on fire racing, there's nothing like it. Give me a hot dog, put me up in the stands, and I'll watch a show anytime. Daytime racing, I love it. The nighttime racing's even better. That's what it's all about. I was raised on the streets of California, and I took my race car to the local strips like Irwindale, Lyons, and Orange County Raceway. And that's where I met the likes of Don Perdome, Tom McEwen, and Big Daddy Don Garland. There was nothing like the spectacular of racing under the lights.
Who are your major influences? You got heroes?
My major influence was probably Don Perdome, because of the funny car racing in the beginning in Orange County, standing at the fence, the whole deal, watching him. Tom McEwen, people that were the hot dogs of the day and still are. Jungle Jim, even though he was around a lot, fascinated by the following he had, the type of individual that he was. That he was a people's people, even though he didn't appear to be like he raced. For some reason they loved him, they adored this guy. Mental strategy is what life's all about. Study the football coaches. Study, go down to the library and get out the books on all the greats. You know what I'm saying? And how they created champions. You know the first thing they'll tell you? The first thing they'll tell you is, and I picked my guys the same way. I told the kid out here today I hired from Ohio, I was mad at him. I walked out, I said, all I've heard about is you're worrying about you're going to get fired. He said, well, yeah, I keep hearing rumors. I said, you want to not get fired? Why? He says, well, I don't want to go home. I don't want to go back to Ohio and have to tell my family that I couldn't cut it. I said, you don't want to go back to Ohio? I'll tell you how never to go back. Every day of your life, wake up and tell yourself, I ain't going back. I ain't going back. And every day that fear will stick in your head. Because, see, you'll get fired because you'll work hard today, and a month from now, you'll get slow. And then I'll see you and I'll fire you. But if every day you tell yourself, I'm not going back to Ohio, and you make that your motivation, you'll work. And every day John Force says, I'm not going back to Bell Gardens. I ain't going back to being poor. And now that I got everything, I can't even use it. Can't ride my motorcycle, can't swim in my pool, don't care. My family's got it. And I got the biggest truck and trailer in the business.
Is this Truck Driver Makes Good?
Yeah. Ain't even started yet. You've only seen chapter 1.
Now, here we go. The Nitro Funny Car Final. The two low 18 cars in the first round, ready to battle it out. First to fire in the right lane from Yorba Linda, California, John Brute Force is red and white Chevy Cavalier. That body comes down, and he pulls it on into the burnout area, ready to make the Super Smoky burnout.
Santucci out of Coropolis, Pennsylvania, his brand new Black Magic Ford Thunderbird. He is the second quickest elapsed time here today in the first round with a 5:99, the qualifying run for fourth. Another great burnout by Santucci. Boy, these guys are ready. Santucci, Austin Coyle, holding John up for his driver now. Close up nicely, a lot of clutch dust coming out of the back of the car, that's good. Now Santucci just now backing up from his wet burnout. Both drivers taking their time, winding up on the starting line, allowing those big, powerful Chrysler heavy engines to fill deep. The hotter they are, the faster they run, and they want to do their best here. This is the one for all the gold here at the Kmart Polaroid U.S. All-Pro Funny Car Championship. And John Ford runs another 5.72 second lap time to win the 1986 Kmart Polaroid U.S. All-Pro Funny Car Championship. What a great race it's been!
There was a fraction of a second when it lit up. And I remember thinking, and half the think process goes on while you're thinking about something else. I remember thinking, we got fire in the bottom side. And I reached over for the trigger, right? But I wasn't setting the trigger off one time yet. What I didn't know is the motor had split in half at hydraulic. Now, what is the difference between 10 years ago and now? You really ever think about it? The difference is that we got a major bomb. We don't have a World War I bomb. We got a World War III bomb. That's why they're running 300 miles an hour out there and running the speeds and ETs. So now when your motor explodes, I don't want to believe in a car that made 3,000 horsepower, so we put a shield over the headers to prevent oil fire. Now you got a 5,000 or more horsepower car that blows up almost twice as big when it blows. My car was in a major fire underneath me and I didn't even know it. When I knew there was fire was when the body unleashed. I thought, I'm okay. I remember thinking about it. Oh, great TV, here we go. And I'm pulling on the brake, and all of a sudden the world opens up on fire. Fire underneath the car, burnt the tires, ripped the tires off, lifted the rear of the body, unsealed the firewall, opened up the pizza maker, and there it was, except no pizza.
Major deal.
Just fire, that's right. All of a sudden, she's sideways. I got the wheels cocked this way. I can see the wheels through the smoke. It's like, what's going on here? You know what I mean? I know where my wheel is. I know where my steering wheels are. And I'm going right at the wall. When she come around, it was my first view of daylight, because the fire changed directions. And that was the first time I had real fear.
How long did it feel like, this whole thing?
It was like that. But I
Was it
remember
quick
seeing
when
the
you
wall, and my mind put me over in the parking lot on top of someone's Oldsmobile parked. I thought that was it.
When did you think about
And all the things you always fear about dying, the emotional, oh God, this is it, my life flashed before me. Nothing flashed before me. I remember thinking, this is going to be spectacular. I never hit a guardrail at 250 miles an hour head on fire. I said, this is going to be spectacular. And you're going to come out of that deal, but probably not. And that is how I really felt. Next thing I know, she hit. The steering wheel stuck into my chest. My seatbelt stretched 3 or 4 inches. I bent the steering wheel over backwards. All the fire and hell broke loose, went that way. Next thing I know, I'm sailing backwards, and I'm seeing the Memphis Tower. And I'm thinking, oh, this is great. Now we got rid of the fire. All that's left now is to break your neck. That's what I thought. Next thing I know, I'm out in the field, opened my eyes, and there was your buddy again, Bernstein. Just looking at me. You okay? I told him, get out of my TV. Get out of it. That's really what happened, and it was truly scared me. Yet I go right into my routine, my act, for the fans, for the sponsors, TV live, let's get it loaded on the truck, go down parade. That's all that's left. Didn't even know I was hurt.
We're going to see an unusual race. As you remember, John Force in the first round had a problem with his car. He didn't make a good pass, and he's very disappointed. He's out here behind me, ready to go for second round. He's out here on a consolation-type run. He just wants to come out and show to these fans that he can run. His competition, though, is going to be a Jet Funny car. That is Dick Rosberg back there with the Stroh's Fireproof Firebird. Johnny Forrest backing up the Castrol GTX. Jolly Rancher Candy Polaroid camera. Oldsmobile here in the right-hand lane. He's going to be taking on the Jet Powered Funny car. You can see Forrest lining up for his dry burnout, so let's watch him. Now, here we go. Fired and running is the Jet car. Making a nice dry burnout. The motor stops right up here. He waves his hand at it. Did you see it? You don't see this too often. You don't see a Nitro Funny car in one lane and a Jet Funny car in the other lane. Forrest just wanted to come back and show these people in the stands that he can run. He wants to lay down a good 5-second run. He's getting ready to line up against the Jet Funny car. Let's watch. There it is, low elapsed time of the race. John Force wanted to prove he was the fastest guy here. He did it. A 571 top speed, 262 miles per hour. As you saw, Rosberg and the Stroh's Fireproof Firebird just kind of fizzled out on the starting line. He had what they call a flame out, and his jet just couldn't keep up with John Force.
Gypsies. Let's go way back to the Gypsies, to the Larry Talbot werewolf movies. Why do the Gypsies live the road and travel the way they do? Because they were born doing that. They traveled. They don't know nothing else. Can't give them a job in the city. They don't know how. So then let's upgrade to the rodeos. Now, why does a cowboy do what he does? Garth Brooks sings about it all the time. Why do they do what they do? And they leave their wives and their dreams behind to follow the rodeo. Why? Because that is their dream. And you know what race car drivers are? I won't say the IndyCar guys, but let's say the NASCAR and drag racing people. We're modern day cowboys. We're modern day rodeo people. We follow the roads. I truly do. I do not know how to get off the road. That's what I'm doing right here. Wednesday night, Englishtown. Thursday night, ACCO tomorrow. Why? I don't know where else to go. So my dad worked with Barnum Bailey. I traveled as a kid. We lived in a bus. My mom was berry pickers. We traveled up and down the coast. My life was moving to the next town, to the next gas station. Ain't nothing better to hear that bell ding when you pull into a gas station. You know that? You understand that?
What was your proudest moment? What was the moment in your life?
You know, you want the truth? We played a game for Darrell Gwynn after his crash against the NASCAR guys and hitting a home run in a baseball game for drag racing. Now, you know why? See, I tried playing ball in school and I had polio when I was a kid. And I was a quarterback. I was a 3-year letterman. I did good. I went to college and played ball and it wasn't there. McEwen laughed at me. I didn't hit it for Darrell Gwynn. I hit it for life or whatever. All I know is I went up there in a stadium packed with people I was there with Dan Pastorini, put one out of the park. We were playing against Kyle Petty, that was people that were pro ball players, that were 6'3", 220-pound studs, and here I was 5'10", overweight, with a pot belly. But I believed. And I think when Rich Little, or whatever his name was, Chad Little, knocked me over at home plate, end over end, and I almost went up to the dugout to show them boys how tough this Okie was. And then I thought about that. I would have got beat up if I'd showed them, but I was considering it. And that's why the NASCAR people like me, because I'm real. But I went back up to the plate, and I said to myself, I can put a ball out of this park. I really did believe it that night, because I got caught up in the heat of battle. In the heat of battle is when you really know how good you are, just like driving a race car. When you can take your race car and talk to it, and you tell it, we're going to make magic today, we're going to walk on water, you can do it. And I believe that. And I believe in that ball game that I could put it out of the park. And that was I watched that movie over and over 100 times, and I put it out of the park. And McEwen laughed at me. He said, Forrest, when I watched you run, he said, it looked like that old movie, Damn Yankees, and the guy ran out there and the devil made him old again. He said, you could hardly run. Your old knees were wobbling. He was laughing so hard at me. I said, I didn't have to run hard. I knocked it out of the park. All I had to do was get around the bases. That was, let's talk about having children and the highlights of it. Maybe there's things I've missed in my life. But that was a magic moment for me, that I did something that went beyond, you know we only use a certain percentage of our brain, 90% of it we don't use. We know that. We don't push ourselves to the limit. Because every time we push ourselves to the limit and we think we did good, well then we think, okay, we'll take the day off. Well, John Force has not allowed that, to take the day off. My crew won, come out of Montreal the very minute they won the next morning. I said, you know what you did? You recovered from the Memphis crash. You've showed how good you are, and now you're going to go back and show how good you are again, because you're going to do it again. They said, right, win another world championship, and then it's going to be, this is our destiny, and this is a turning point of our career, Pomona, opening race. That's the motivation. Let me tell you what great coaches say, and this is a fact. Give me the number 2 draft choice. Do not give me the Heisman Trophy winner. That's what coaches say. If they take a Heisman Trophy winner, it's because they take the guy out of college that has the hype. But they do not want that individual. You know why? And look at almost every Heisman Trophy winner, they're not out there. But the number 2 guy become the great. And you know why? Because the number 2 guy was almost there. Except when college was over and they laid that Heisman Trophy on that guy, he stood up and said, I did it. I worked my whole life, high school, and then I went into college and I become the greatest. I'm the Heisman Trophy winner, right? And now I'm in the pros, and now they know I'm great. And then he went up there and went to shit. But the number 2 guy walked away from college with nothing, and the gut ache started again, and he got up Monday morning and he went out there on the football field because he hadn't proved himself. And that's the trick. And that's what happens, and that happens in drag racing. Every day I see it.